3.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hi. My name is Elnaz, and I'm a nursing student at Indiana State University. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you for taking time from your busy schedule and participating in this health education presentation. Today, I'd like to give you a brief talk about obesity. I'm sure many of you have seen something on the news about obesity, read an article in a newspaper or magazine about it, and have seen thousands of infomercials on TV about diet and diet products. Well, my goal today is to break down the vast topic of obesity into its smaller constituents and offer you some options as far as offer you options that are cost-friendly and manageable. Before I started this presentation, I presented each of you with little form of questions, and as you may suspect, I'm going to go ahead and discuss each part of that questions in a little more detail. First, let's start by defining what obesity is. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention defines obesity as ranges of weights that are above what a normal weight should be for a particular height. A person is considered obese if their weight is 20% more than what a normal range should be for their particular height. Now, you may have heard that obesity has become an epidemic in our nation. So what exactly is an epidemic, and how is obesity an epidemic? An epidemic occurs when a number of people who suffer from a particular disease, in this case obesity, rise well above what the country expects that number to be. Statistics show that in the United States, more than 1/3 of U.S. adults, as well as 17% of children and adolescents, are suffering from obesity, and the number is continuing to rise. Other statistics show that if we don't take proper action right now, more than half of the U.S. population, about 42% of the U.S. population, will be obese by the year 2030. Now, these are staggering numbers, and because of this high range of obesity in our country, obesity has been categorized as an epidemic. So as you can see, obesity does not affect an individual. The effects that it has on our country and our economy, especially with today's rise in the healthcare cost, is enormous. Now that we know what obesity is and how it can affect our country, let's look at some ways that we can measure an individual and consider him obese or not obese. One way for us to find out whether an individual is obese is to do the waist to hip ratio. In this case, you basically take the measure of the circumference of an individual's waist and divide that by the person's hip measurements. Now, for a female, if that number is 0.85, that ratio is 0.85, they're considered obese. And if for a man that number is 0.90, they're considered obese. Now, let's say that I measure my belly and it's 60 inches, and I measure my hip size and it's 50 inches. If I were to divide 60 over 50, the number I would get is 1.2. But that's a high number, and if I'm a female in that category, I will be considered obese. Another tool that some of you may have heard of is called the body mass index, or BMI. In body mass index, we can correlate the amount of your body fat based on your height and your weight. Now, the CDC has specific guidelines for what a high BMI would be considered: healthy weight, overweight, obese, or underweight. According to the CDC, a BMI value of 18.5 is considered underweight. A BMI of 18.5 to 24.9 would be considered healthy weight. A BMI of 25 to 29.9 would be considered overweight, and a BMI of 29 and above would be considered obese. Okay, now let's say, for example, we have an individual who's 5'9". If their weight is between 128 and 162, they're considered healthy. If their number is 169, their weight is 169 to 196, they're considered overweight. And anything above 203, they would be considered obese. last tool that I would like to discuss with you is the body fat percentage. Using the body fat percentage, we're able to calculate the total composition of the body, the amount of muscle, the amount of fat, the amount of water. Now, for women, if they have a body fat percentage of 32% or higher, they're considered obese. And if a male individual has a body fat percentage of 25% or more, they're considered obese. Now that we know what obesity is and how to measure to find out whether an individual is obese, let's discuss some health risk factors that are associated with obesity. There are many health considerations and risk factors that are associated with obesity. Heart disease, stroke, depression, osteoarthritis, sleep apnea. This is where an individual is sleeping and all of a sudden they're unable to breathe for a few seconds and then they restart breathing again, which can be very dangerous. And also some types of cancers are also associated with obesity. Now, the list can go on and on, but I'd like to focus on 4 of these items I just mentioned. I'd like to first start with heart disease. There is a direct link between obesity and heart disease. A person who's obese has a very high risk of having heart disease later on in their life. And basically what happens is that as you consume a diet that's high in fat, you're causing your blood arteries to build up with cholesterol, and it causes narrowing of the arteries, so the blood cannot flow as easily to all parts of the body, which causes muscle damage, and it could lead to heart disease or even a heart attack. High blood pressure is also another health risk factor that's associated with obesity. Being overweight puts an extra strain on your heart, so your heart would have to try to pump harder in order to get blood to all over your body. So it rises your heart blood pressure. Now, there's another factor with obesity, and that's the fact that we will consume a diet that's high in sodium. And a diet high in sodium will also elevate your blood pressure. There's also a very strong link between obesity and type 2 diabetes. Of all the people that are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, about 80 to 90% of them are also diagnosed with obesity. Now, as I said before, being obese puts a lot of strain on your body. Well, when it comes to diabetes, your body has a hard time breaking down sugar. Now, what happens is that when you consume sugar, your body has to produce a hormone called insulin to metabolize and break down the sugar. Well, for somebody who's obese and they keep consuming diet that's high in carbohydrates and sugar, their body becomes insulin resistant. When your body becomes insulin resistant, you can't metabolize and break down the sugars easily. Now, this could be dangerous for somebody who already has diabetes because they need to even get more insulin to break down the sugar in their system. And that's why you see patients are on insulin and different medications. And with a person who is not diagnosed with diabetes, that having the insulin resistance happen often, day after day after day, prones them to be diagnosed with diabetes. Emotional distress that's associated with obesity, I'd like to talk about that for a few minutes also. Studies have shown that individuals who are obese are 25 times more likely to suffer from depression or other mental or emotional distresses compared to people who are not obese. Obesity can cause poor self-image, low self-esteem, and social isolation. And all of these, as you know, are contributing factors to depression. Those who are obese find themselves ostracized, they find themselves discriminated against, and the pressure that they're feeling puts them in further isolation, and they try to not be part of society because of it. they're also stereotyped and discriminated against often. And this could happen both for children and adults. Teens often face this problem more often because, as you know, in our society, obesity is becoming a reason for bullying kids at school. And so teenagers tend to have a really, really hard time with that. And as they age, because of all the social effects that they've had experienced in school, they're more prone to have depression as they age and they become adults. So it's clear that what we choose to eat and how much of it we eat has a direct major effect and side effect to us as individuals and our children, our family, and our society. So what can we do to end this epidemic? How can we take the first step for ourselves as individuals to make this a better situation? Unfortunately, as much as TV commercials and infomercials try to persuade us, there is no one easy way to lose weight. Eating healthy and being healthy is something that you have to work on every single day. It's not something that you can do for a short period of time and stop and restart again. So we have to realize that this is something that we have to practice on a daily basis. So now I'd like to point out some solutions that we can have to this issue. The first step in recognizing that we have a problem. We have to recognize that there is an issue and have the will and the power to do something about it. We can't force our children to eat healthy and do more exercise unless we set a good example for them. And we can start by using the tools that I just discussed with you, such as the BMI and the waist to hip ratio, to find out where we stand and what we need to do for our health and what actions we need to take. One of the primary ways in battling obesity is to increase the level of our physical activity. Now, according to 2008 physical activity guidelines for Americans, there are specific guidelines that are set for adults and children. Adults are recommended to participate in two types of physical activity. One is aerobics and one is muscle strengthening. At minimum, adults are recommended to do 2.5 hours of moderately intense aerobics activities such as brisk walking. In addition to that, they are recommended to do 2 days of muscle strengthening activities. And these, when you're doing a muscle strengthening activities, you need to focus on major muscle groups, such as your legs, your abdomen, your chest, and your back. Now for children, it's very important that we promote activity to our children. They have to do 60 minutes, minimum of 60 minutes of physical activity every single day. Now the problem with childhood obesity has become a major problem in our country, and even the White House and our government are trying to partake into coming up with different programs that will be helpful to our children. For example, our First Lady, Michelle Obama, has taken a very active role in preventing childhood obesity through a comprehensive initiative known as Let's Move. The Let's Move program is specified for children, and it gives parents little guidelines on what the child needs to do. For instance, applying less TV time and more outside playing time, and also having family meal time. Don't let your children have the meal in front of the TV. Instead, turn meal time into family time and spend time with your children. Now, being active is only half of the equation, and healthy eating. Is only half the equation. The other half is healthy eating. We measure how much we eat and what we should eat by the number of calories that are in a specific food. Calories is a unit of measurement that measures how much energy is in each food. Now, if a food is high in calories, that means your body needs to do more physical activity in order to release that amount of energy that your body intook. Okay? Now, there are specific calories that each individual should take, and that's based on your age, your height, and your weight. In general, the U.S. Department of Agriculture recommends that women between the ages of 19 to 34 should consume no more than 2,000 calories. For men, that's a little bit more. For the same age, they shouldn't consume more than 2,400 calories. Now, you might think, how is caloric intake related to weight loss? Like I said before, it's very simple. If you consume a specific high number of calories and you don't do as much exercise, or you don't burn the energy off at the same equal level, you're going to gain weight. Now, if your caloric intake is equal to the amount of energy that you will use during the day, then your weight is going to remain the same. So in order for you to lose weight, you would have to decrease your caloric intake and increase your activity level, and that will help you lose weight. Now, it's much easier to lose weight if you consume less, because it's more difficult to burn the excess calories that you intake. And for that, I want to show you an example. Now, here I have a Big Mac meal. It's regular size Big Mac, fries, and a regular drink. How many calories do you guys think is in this drink? Is in this whole meal?
1,500.
15?
1,200.
12?
2,000. I think 2,500.
2,500. Well, you guys are close. This whole meal consists of 1,350 calories. 54 grams of this food is just fat. 13.5 grams is saturated fat, which is makes it even worse. Okay, and this meal has 1,470 milligrams of sodium. So as you see, the portion size of this meal is not that huge, and it packs a lot of calories. And I'm sure that once I finish eating this, I'll probably get hungry, maybe 3 to 4 hours later, and I want to eat something else. Now, for me to burn off this food, I would have to exercise, brisk walk, or jog for 3 hours straight. So that's how much calories this food has. Now, if I go and I get this meal from the same restaurant instead, this is, what is this? A premium Southwest salad with grilled chicken. With the dressing, how many calories do you guys think this has?
600, 700, 800.
You know, you're pretty close. This salad with the dressing has a total of 620 calories. So basically, the portion is obviously bigger. It has less carbohydrates, less sugar. And if I were to eat this, I would have to work out half as much as I worked out with the Big Mac meal. But then then at the same time, if I get hungry in a few hours, I won't feel guilty about having another healthy snack. Now, the problem that our society has is that we punish and we reward with food. You can go to McDonald's and get a Happy Meal, and they'll give you a toy at the end of your trip. We reward our children with food. We accomplish something at work and we want to go celebrate after work over food and drinks. We're sad, we eat. We're happy, we eat. We're depressed, we eat. So we associate every emotional feeling that we have with food. And unfortunately, that's become a problem because we're having unhealthy food multiple times throughout the day for every occasion possible. So we should work on not letting food or emotions dictate what we're going to eat. Because at the end of the day, the stressful situation will pass, but the added extra pounds that we have to work off, it's going to take longer to get rid of. Here, I want to show you guys an example of foods to avoid. So some of these are food examples of what we consider empty calories. Donuts, chips, chocolate bars, these are considered empty calories. They're called empty calories because, first of all, they're mostly processed food. They have high number of calories and very low nutritional value. And if you notice something else, between these two plates, you hardly see any vegetables, maybe a little bit here, And almost everything on these plates are fried. So we want to try to avoid fried food, empty calories, foods that are high in sugar, and obviously fast food. Now this is what your healthy plate should look like. You should have lean protein, whole grains, vegetables, fruits, and you should try to do, if you're doing dairy, you should do 1% or fat-free. The Department of Agriculture has set up a website or a tool for individuals called choosemyplate.gov. Now this is a great website, you can personalize this website based on your level of activity, your age, what type of work you do, and it gives you a breakdown of how many calories you need to consume a day, and you can input all that information in the system, and it'll tell you at the end of the day how many calories you've burned and what you should do to improve and all of that. Now based on this website, they have specific suggestions as far as what food we should eat, and I know this is going to sound repetitive, but I'd like to go over it with you again. It's important to have in your diet to have fruits and vegetables, whole grains, again low-fat milk products, dairy products, or non-fat dairy products, lean meats, poultry, fish, beans, eggs, and nuts, and again try to avoid empty calories. Try to eat often, but small portions, and try to have healthy snacks in between your meals. That way, your body doesn't starve in between meals, and you can, always feel satisfied. Now, once we determine how many calories we should eat, we can plan our daily menu. It's very important for us to plan ahead of time. Because when you plan ahead of time, if you end up at a restaurant, you go in with the mentality that you're gonna look at the menu and you're gonna choose something that's healthy. Or you're gonna pack your food, which is even more economical, and at the same time, you know exactly what ingredients you're putting in your food. Generally speaking, if you reduce your calorie intake by 500 calories a day, just 500 calories a day, you're more likely to lose about 1 pound a week. That's considered healthy weight loss. So that's what you should go for. I hope that this discussion has given you some insight about what obesity is and how it can affect us as individuals and as a community. Now, I'd like to advise you that it's very important that you keep an open communication with your doctor. Discuss your plans and come up with a good plan of healthy eating and exercise with your doctor, and don't start any type of exercise and diet plan without discussing it with your doctor first. I really want to thank you for your time, and if you have any questions for me.
I have a question.
Yes.
What are your take or your opinions on fad diets such as the 3-day diet or the cabbage soup diet, etc.?
I used to do all of those diets myself before, and what I came to find out is that you lose weight really fast. Majority of that weight that you lose in the beginning is the excess water weight, and you do consistently lose, but it's because you're reducing your calorie intake so much that you're bound to lose the weight. The problem with that is that you can only have cabbage for so long, or you can only have the lemonade, cayenne pepper, maple syrup diet for so long before you start going back to eating your normal routine. And once you start doing that, you're going to slowly gain the weight back, or maybe plus more. So it's not an effective way to lose weight, and it could also have health risks that could be very dangerous.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why is muscle building important to weight loss? And wouldn't it be just enough if I did cardio alone?
When you do cardio exercise, it's very important to do cardio exercise, and that does help you lose weight. Building muscle can have many, many benefits. One of which, it puts less strain on your body parts such as your joints and your back. Another important thing is that when you have more muscle in your body than your fat, you lose more weight because muscle burns more calories than fat does. So if you have more muscle in your body than I have, we can be doing the same type of exercise or any type of activity during the day, and at the end of the day, you're going to burn more calories because your body composition is more muscle than mine, which is more fat. So you're gonna end up losing more weight that way. Yes.
I know lowering fat and calorie content is important, but what about carbs, lowering carbs?
You know, you should have a well-balanced diet. So you shouldn't deprive yourself of eating anything. So you should have a well-carbohydrate diet, protein, fat, but the good fat. Now, you know, your body needs that carbohydrate because the carbohydrate turns into sugar in your body. So you need to have the carbohydrate in your body, especially when you exercise. Because when you exercise, your body will use that carbohydrate as fuel. Now, it's important for you not to overindulge in having carbohydrates because when you're working out with the mindset of losing weight, you want your body to burn the excess fat. So if you give your body excess carbohydrates, your body is going to try to burn the carbohydrates first before it goes to the fat. So try to keep a well-balanced meal. You should eat everything. I again highly recommend for you to use the choosmyplate.gov, and you know, I'm going to actually go ahead and demonstrate what the plate should look like. And try to have everything from every food group.
I have a question. What are some good examples of carbohydrates to include in a diet?
You know, good types of carbohydrates are those that are not refined, so they're whole grain carbohydrates. Instead of, you know, white bread, white rice, you should do whole wheat bread, brown rice. You know, fruits have carbs, vegetables have carbs, so you can you know, plan your meal and choose the variety of options for yourself.
So basically stay away from white.
Try to stay away from white, yeah, because those are more refined, and again, those we go back to empty calories because they don't have that many nutritional value. All they do is kind of make you gain weight instead. So I'd like to actually take a moment and show you what the healthy plate should look like. Get a plate here. Okay. Well, actually, I'll just tell you about it. What you try to accomplish when you're trying to set up a healthy plate is you have your plate and you are going to divide it into 4 quadrants. And then in each quadrant, you're going to place a food group. So you're going to have 1/4 of vegetables, 1/4 of fruit, 1/4 of lean protein, and 1/4 of whole grain. And if you want to have some milk products, try to stay away from full fat and just have 1%. Okay? Now I have some handouts here for you, and these are give you a lot of information about how to budget, how to shop healthy on a budget, how to reduce your salt intake in your diet, and also all the websites. There are a lot of websites like choosmyplate.gov, the BMI calculator, calorie counter, and how to basically calculate how many calories you've taken throughout the day. And you just input the data in, and it'll give you an overall picture of how many calories you're consuming. And you're more than welcome to have any of these. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.